This is Soccer 101 with Moon and Rocchio.
All right. Welcome back to Soccer 101. I'm Moon, and that's Matt Rocchio, and we got lots to talk about. It's a St. Louis City SC podcast, so we're here to talk about St. Louis City SC, and there's plenty going on. So we're recording this on Friday, just before the Saturday St. Louis City SC versus LAFC match. But let's start with last week. We'll get to some Leagues Cup announcement news that came out yesterday, and then we'll talk about the LAFC match coming up. Austin FC. St. Louis City SC went down. Austin FC, obviously an underwhelming squad as far as what they had on paper last year. They were looking to prove something this year, and just impress some people. We had predicted a St. Louis City SC win last week because they were out. Their lead striker Driussi was going to be out this match, and it ended up being a 2-2 draw. Rocchio, what do you take away?
I mean, I think there was a lot of things to take away from that one. I just think the fact that they were able to claw back at two different points against Austin FC, they go down 1-0, they claw back, make it 1-1. They go down 2-1, they claw back, make it 2-2 to be able to get a point in an away game. I think that's the biggest thing. You heard it on the broadcast, and I can't disagree with it. You want to win at home and take points on the away. So anytime you can get 1 point in an away game, I think that's a big thing for City. Yeah, you don't like that when they lose their best offensive player in Driussi, that they are still able to put 2 goals on. They're able to do it from two, one from a set piece, one from what essentially played like a set piece, getting both their center backs goals. So
from two center backs, man.
Yeah, it's not ideal. You don't like getting scored on by 2 center backs, but that's going to happen sometimes. Like I said, if you're getting a point away in a draw, it's not the worst thing in the world. For me, I did think I was impressed by their play against a team that had the Sporting Kansas City model of the playoff game last year, which is we're going to make City beat us with City having possession, and we're going to make them break down a set defense. And Bradley Carnell was actually asked about how he thought about their play in possession yesterday at the press conference. Here's Bradley Carnell talking about how they thought about their playing in possession with more possession against a team that was playing more often than not a set defense.
And we got into the box 26 times, and, we dominated a team away from home. And, I thought that we'd not just played east to west and backwards and around again. And, even with the ball, we want to be purposeful. We want to be penetrating, want to be vertical. We want to be, getting in behind. We want to go underneath. We want to make it exciting. We want to play with urgency. And I think we've shown that in a couple of games now, that it can work both ways. I don't care too much about the possession, me. I care about obviously transition moments, and I care about what we do with the ball when we have it. But I want to see bravery. I want to see courage. I want to see a ruthlessness and a relentlessness to go at the opponent. And I think we saw that, against Austin.
Interesting. Yeah. I'll tell you what, let me just make a comment about the MLS. I've talked about the weakness in the defense is just like there's no defense in this league. You're never looking to be impressed necessarily. But what I have been impressed with is the abilities for these coaches and teams to really play strategy. Like you're seeing a lot of good chess moves and strategy being played out match to match, week to week. And one team will employ a strategy against one team one week, and then a completely different one the next week. And a lot of these players, credit to them, defenses included, are on board with these switchings of strategies. St. Louis has shown a couple. I wouldn't say a huge variety of them, but some of these teams and some of these matches have been really impressive from a strategic or a counter strategy sort of perspective. Now, with that said, 2 center backs from Austin scored. They're missing their key player. You even said, that they're letting us play this dominance game. We did dominate. There was a lot of transitional play. There was a lot of possession. There was a lot of in the box play, and we let them score first both times in both halves with their center backs. Now, listen, the first one happened in the first half, and it was off of a corner kick. Set pieces, that kind of stuff is going to happen. Löwen was kind of on that back post and kind of not. So it's like, from a defensive standpoint, are you on the post or are you not on the post? And I feel like if he was in like tip-top shape, maybe he could have like jolted and thrown a foot out there where he did not make that effort. Was a little bit of a letdown.
I want to say I'm diving deep into my notes from the game. Because as we're talking about this one, the Austin player got away, and this is a smart play. Yeah, I mean, how many times did you pull this move, Moon? Where he full arm shoves Durkin forward and then takes one step back, and he's perfectly on the back post for that hit. So that's Löwen was a little bit off position. Durkin was man marking the man who scored, and he just got away with a push that took Durkin out of position. Again, it's against the rules, but I mean, how many times are there actually set piece goals where the defender doesn't, get away with a little bit of a nudge on the guy trying to man mark him? That's what happened on that first goal.
Yeah, I get it, and that's the play. But that's a play that you're going to see every other corner kick or that type of set piece. And that's the ref's job. That's not mine. I'm not taking away anything from the striker for doing that particular move. But again, like if you're going to be on that back post, be ready for that deflection to help your keeper out there. And I'm not saying it's Löwen's fault at all. I'm just saying, like, I think Löwen in good shape would have, in tip-top shape, would have maybe made more of an effort and possibly saved that goal. Now, I think he showed a lot of great stuff in distributing the ball, some real creativity. He had a couple through balls that were excellent, created some opportunities, but he had a glaring miss, an absolute sitter of a miss in that first half. And here's what I'll say in a positive note about Löwen in his reaction to his miss in that first half is after that he was trying to take shots to make up for it.
Yeah, he was,
and he got it. Go ahead.
No, his passing was incredible. I think people, and we're going to talk about a little bit later why opening the show with some Löwen plaudits is potentially troublesome for City this next weekend. But I mean, you saw just a completely different level of offense from City, and he was spraying it all around the yard. That was impressive
for sure. But with that miss and being down 1-0, it was a bit of a wash. But he showed some really good creativity and some good through balls. Can't believe he missed that ball. You just can't miss that kind of ball. Again, more impressiveness from Pompeu. This dude is a hustler. This guy, he got pushed off the ball there. So he's a little bit weak as far as that kind of stuff goes. He's easy to push around for a bigger defender, but I think he's going to start really coming into it as he gets a little bit older, gets a little bit beefier. I think that guy, once he gets a little bit more upper body strength where he can move some people, that is going to be he's going to be a monster. Pompeu is great.
Isn't the question for Celio more of a center of gravity, lower body kind of strength that you're looking at when it comes to getting pushed off the ball like that? Because I think that, when you see a guy like Messi, it's all about, that super low, super heavy center of gravity. That means you can't be bumped off the ball. I don't know if I'm necessarily worrying about Celio, above the waist with his dribbling and the way that he is able to attack defenders off of their, take them off of their base because of how he's able to dribble at them. I just think for him, it's all about balance and center of gravity.
But Messi has an advantage there because he's so small. Because he's so short. Pompeu is a normal sized fella. He's like, an average sized fella, and he runs like a short guy. So he runs really lightly and really above. You know what I mean? Like really,
okay.
Like he runs like I would run, and he's probably, I'd say 2 inches taller, maybe 3 inches taller than me. I'm 5'7", 5'8".
Yeah, he's about 5'10". Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so if he's 5'10", he's running like a 5'7" cat, and I know that maybe doesn't sound like it's much of a difference, but when you're talking about center of gravity and like where you need your strength, he's running like a much lighter guy, and and if somebody kind of lifts him a little bit, almost like hockey, you kind of like get in the right places. And a 5'10" guy, believe me, man, like it probably looked mismatched when I was playing soccer and I was 3-4 inches shorter than guys. But all I had to see all I had to see was a weakness in your run game, and all I had to do was lift you in the right place, and I made you look like a fool, dude. And it just takes a little bit of physics. That's all it takes. And I think when he gets the right strength in the right place, whether it's low or high, he's going to be a monster. What a amazing potential talent we have in that kid.
And he's really, he's just taken every minute that he's played so far, and he's made the jump. I mean, we talked about in the pregame, who's going to make up for these Nico Gioacchini minutes. And we knew that Pompeu was going to be in the running for it. I don't think we knew that Pompeu was going to take the job and, with a stranglehold and say, this is now, I'm a starter. I'm in the top 11 and you can't take me away from it because of my production. And I really think that Austin game, if you have your season pass, and by the way, I do want to say, if you don't have MLS season pass and you're always wondering, how do I watch more City games? MLS season pass, every game is free this weekend. So sit down in front of your TV, pull up Apple TV Plus, and watch as much MLS soccer you want, including STL City taking on the LA Galaxy. It's a late one, so you got a lot of games before that to watch, before City and Galaxy, but nonetheless, all those games are free. And by the way, if you want to go back on Apple TV Plus and rewatch that Austin game, I really do think that was a very informative game for City fans, because one, you saw the possession play and you talked about the strategy, and man, the strategy of the possession play really fascinated me. It's not groundbreaking that City did this, but if you look at all the times that Austin had pretty much every player on their side of the half, how did City attack them when they didn't have any transition? Well, they went essentially into, as I kind of wrote it down, was like a 2-5-2-1. Which is kind of a weird way to describe it, but essentially your wingbacks fly up, become midfielders. Your only two people back playing the ball with Berkey are your two center backs. Löwen would then come down and receive the ball from the center backs, and then, like I said, he turns and now he has the entire field in front of them. But then what you saw though was every attacking player outside of the two center backs for City had an option to make runs against the Austin defense. The two wide backs in Marcanic and Totland, they could have made runs along the flanks to stretch out that Austin defense. And then every other player, whether it was Indy Vassilev, Celio Pompeu, Sam Adeniran, AZ Jackson, even Chris Durkin, and obviously there were some changes there. Ostrak comes in for Durkin, Thorison's in there for a little bit. Every single player that wasn't one of the two center backs was able to and did make runs at the set Austin defense throughout that game. I thought it was a completely different way they played in possession. I thought, again, it wasn't groundbreaking, but it was different than what we saw last year, and it was so much more successful than what we saw last year in their possession play. I was extremely impressed in that, and part of that is that whenever they wanted to, they would go heavy onto their right side, and then they'd flip the field, and then they would have Celio one-on-one, usually with Gallagher of Austin FC, and Gallagher probably has a personal hatred for Celio Pompeu after that match, because every single one-on-one dribble after about the 30th minute that Pompeu had against Gallagher, it was donezo. I mean, cut it up. Gallagher knows he's done. He's getting beat every time. I loved the strategy like you were talking about from City, and specifically, I love the way it opened up Celio's game.
Yeah, and that's what you want. And the coach was talking about the intensity there, and I forget what he said, relentlessness maybe it was.
You want to say bravery.
And bravery, and like I hate to say this because like nice guy off the field, like let's be friends, but like if you, I hate to say it, if you're a defender or you're a striker like that, and you're being man marked, and that guy likes you during the game, if he doesn't hate you, you haven't done your job. Like
Gallagher had nightmares about Pompeu that night.
Yeah,
he was murdering him.
You want to be so in their head. You want to be so intimidating that it just depletes them of any sort of motivation or energy, and they get bummed anytime the ball crosses to your side of the field. That's what you want. You want them not wanting to be involved. And we're starting to finally see that. It took a few games. It took a few matches this season to see a team, or really to see anybody, look like they want to be an intimidator. I want you scared of everything. I want you scared. I want you thinking that like I've done dirty things in my life, bad things in my life. I want you thinking I'm a bad man.
That's funny you say that, because I think it's funny you say that, because I think Celio's the nicest person I've ever met with a neck tattoo.
Yeah, well, maybe so. But that's the thing. Like I want to be in your head the second right before the whistle blows. I want to make eye contact with you, and I want you to think there's something wrong with this guy, and there's a screw loose. Because
give him the crazy eye.
Yeah, because it works, and it makes sense, and it makes you play. If you have that attitude going in, it makes you play that much harder, that much more relentless. So let's one
other thing really quickly before we move on, because Carnell mentioned in that clip we played that they had 20 that they went into the box against Austin 26 times, and he's very happy for that. I wanted to dive in that really quickly and throw out some stats, and I threw this out on my Twitter, ROCC ESPN, yesterday, and you can go back and see it. but I just thought was fascinating. So 26 times they were in the box. Out of those 26 times in the box, they had 36 separate box touches by players in the game. Klaus and Adeniran only had 4 of those 37 touches inside the box. Pompeu had 8. And so I less want to focus on not feeding the ball to your strikers, because I actually don't think that was an issue. I think that was part of the game plan of let's use Adeniran and Klaus more as decoys or more as just centerpieces that are drawing defense, and then let's let Pompeu go to work on the wings. And you saw that exactly. But I do just want to point out that it was fascinating to me how that breakdown happened, because usually you want to get your strikers the best looks, but with the way Pompeu was playing, I understand why they did what they did. I'm sure that Bradley wants to see a little bit more balance in how often Sam and Klaus are touching the ball. I'm sure I would, but nonetheless, I do think it was interesting how, or whether or not, is that a problem? Is that a feature? Is it a flaw? I'm not really sure yet. We're going to have to see more games to see how they use Adeniran, but I do think there is something to them maybe using Adeniran as more of a decoy to open up more space for Pompeu, because right now that's what the stats say they did, and it sure as hell worked.
Well, your question was, well, it sure as hell worked, but your question was,
offensively,
is it a problem? And I'm going to say it is a problem, because we should have taken all 3 points. Like, it's not okay. It's not okay to go down there and get 1 point. It's not okay to go down there and go down 2 different times to 2 center backs on the other team. That's
they did almost
okay.
pull back a third. They to Carnell's fairness, he did mention that Klaus only had 1 touch in the box, but he did mention that 1 touch in the box by Klaus was almost an assist for a goal that they almost got when they drew back that third one, because they were absolutely just harrying the Austin defense to close out the game. But to your point, you don't want to be in a situation where you're trying to win a game against Austin in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, if you watch the highlights, you will not see Adeniran. You will not see Klaus. There are hardly any highlights with them, and it's because they hardly touch the ball. So need to see more of that. I got a feeling both of them are really, really going to want that on this LAFC game. Also, I will say this. The person that impressed me the most and is slowly, I mean, I think you and I even talked last year in the press box about how we like this guy a lot, but this last match, outside and inside of his left foot, Vasilev is going to be the key to the next few matches, in my opinion. Now let's talk about Löwen. Löwen they just announced that he came out of practice on Wednesday with a hamstring injury. We don't know anything else about it. Yep. We don't know, but I know what hamstring injuries are, and they hurt and they take weeks. And because as soon as it feels good, you got to add another like 3 weeks onto that, because as soon as it feels good and you get back out there, it pops again. And the weaker that gets, the weaker your knee gets, and then you blow your ACL. And here I am, my whole left knee hurts every single day. It's because I didn't take care of my left hamstring when I pulled it and tore it a few times.
And so, that's great information, Moon, because I think it draws some very useful light onto why the Löwen phrasing was used yesterday, which was, we're going to reevaluate in 2 weeks. And then Tom Timmerman had in his STL Today story that the team didn't want to give a concrete timetable, because it's 2 weeks and then an evaluation. So to your point, that's why it's so up in the air.
Yeah, dude, there's no such thing as a light hamstring injury. When I lightly injured my hamstring and I came back 4 weeks later, I popped it. And then within like 7 months after that, when I thought I was all good and I was back, my left knee snapped, like my ACL snapped. And the doc eventually was like, oh yeah, it's because your hamstring was weak and your knee's making up for it. It took all the pressure. And that was a point where I thought I was healthy because my hamstring wasn't hurting anymore. And I snapped my ACL because of it. So like, hamstrings are no joke. There's no real, and I'm no medical professional here, but I've had a few run-ins with this. There's no such thing as like being pulled out for a hamstring injury and he's back in 2 weeks. That's not going to happen. So he'll be evaluated. They'll see how it goes. And if it looks and feels good, they'll still put a buffer in there, because you can't afford to drop the guy for a season for really tearing something up, or heaven forbid, some sort of knee injury. So Löwen's out for a bit, and I'm really looking to Vasilev to make the difference. And honestly, after the performance at the last match, I'm fairly confident he's going to do fine. The dude is really shredding on his left foot right now. And I think he's getting creative. I think he's tough. I think he's hard to knock off the ball when he wants to be. Ostrak's probably going to get some more minutes. I've loved him since his debut, because he's not afraid to shoot. And as we saw from Pompeu's last goal there in stoppage time to tie it up and get a point down in Austin, you got to shoot to score. And it wasn't a great angle. It wasn't cute. The ball bounced off of a defender in the box, and he took a rip, got the goal. I love Ostrak because he shoots. We'll probably see some more minutes because we have some positions and minutes to fill. But I'm really looking at Vasilev to take the reins here in the midfield while Löwen's gone.
And that's interesting to me because I do you think do you want it just mindset wise, or do you actually think we'll see Vasilev as part of the 2-man pivot as opposed to the outside midfield spot we've seen him deployed at to start the season?
I bet you they'll try a couple different things.
Yeah,
I bet you they'll try a couple different things, and I'm not sure where he's going to be most effective. I really don't know because I don't see him in training, and I don't know what the coach's plans are here. But what I'm saying is, I'm predicting we're going to see a lot of Vasilev touches wherever he is, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Vasilev goal here and there. And definitely assists in the Löwen assist role. I think Vasilev should, if all goes well, play a key role there. And I don't know if it's going to be him and Jackson. I'm not really sure. I'm curious to see what kind of switches they do because I got a feeling the next 3 or 4 matches are going to be different lineups every time.
Yeah, something tells me that there's a good chance we see Ostrak start because that was kind of that was a lineup decision that I was confused by that they used, I think, right out of the gate in that first win against Houston. Obviously, Löwen wasn't healthy, but the 2-man pivot was Durkin and Ostrak. And then they've used Ostrak as a sub at both outside midfield and at center midi throughout this season, the 60, 70, 80-minute subs. And so I think it really could be Ostrak. I think his ability to press and also be more of that offensive player of the 2-man pivot, I think that was it was clearly something they liked, and that's why they put him in that role in the Houston game in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So I wonder if it's going to be Ostrak. I'd be with you on the Vasilev front, mainly because you do have so much depth in your wingers right now, and you can shift things down to Vasilev and Durkin on your 2 midfielders. Your 2 wide midfielders are Celio Pompeu, and then you can probably even move back AZ Jackson. You could give Rasmus Alm, who's now healthy, or at least close to being healthy and available. You could maybe even give Rasmus Alm his first start as one of the other wide midfielders. And then if you move AZ back and that's your call, well, then you just start both Klaus and Adeniran instead of you bringing one of them off the bench. So I do think there's a lot of options. There's a lot of changes. This is showing right out of the gate how important the versatility and depth of City really is.
Yeah, I think so too. But I think with I think as far as motivation and just momentum goes after last week, I say you start Vasilev and you see what happens.
I mean, you're starting Vasilev at one point. Yeah, the question is, do you start him in his usual spot and make some changes elsewhere, or do you move him back?
I think you push him.
Okay, I'd be okay with that. That was his spot at times last year until it became very solidified of Bloom and Löwen is our 2-man pivot. I'd be down with it. I love the way Vasilev's playing. He's getting fired out of a cannon every game. I think he's playing a little bit more pissed off because he's mad that his wrist is broken. I think he's pretty ticked off about that. And
I think he's looking. I think he's. You remember they talked about in Coach Carnell talked a lot about in training. It's like a very competitive training atmosphere, which I love to hear. And they're like competing for their spots. They're competing for starting spots. They're competing for everything. And if that's continuing, I feel like we're starting to see that again on the field. And I don't know if it's in Vasilev or not, but I feel like he's looking for more pressure. Give me more pressure. And I think he's almost playing like he has something to prove. And I hope I'm right. I hope that's the case, and I hope he gets out there, they give him a chance, and he proves it.
Well, someone's going to have to prove something because even with how well Ilya Vasilev has been playing this season, even with how well Thomas Ostrak has played in different roles this season, the bottom line is look at how City plays in that second game in Houston, and then look at how City plays against New York FC and against Austin FC. And the play of Edward Löwen is the biggest difference. Joachim Nielsen, I should say, being healthy is a difference between those games. But I would argue the biggest difference is the offensive credit you get from Edward Löwen. And so I'm not saying any Vasiliev isn't a useful player. He unbelievably is. I love the way he played this year, but he still isn't Edward Löwen. And so I still think there's a lot of question marks and wondering what is their strategy on Saturday without Edward Löwen? Because as we saw against Houston in Houston, especially in away games, this offense doesn't do much when Edward Löwen isn't pulling the strings. So it's not just about the versatility and the plug and play. There's that factor, but it doesn't matter who you put into his spot. They will not have the passing acumen of Edward Löwen. And so I just wonder, do we see a team trying to play super fast as we kind of transition this into talking about the matchup against the LA Galaxy on Saturday? Bradley Carnell said it yesterday. They're one of the best transition teams in the whole freaking league. They play fast just like we do. It's a different kind of hecticness in how you get into their transition. I would say City presses the ball higher up on the pitch than LA Galaxy does. But nonetheless, I really do think that this could be a game that plays into City's play, because as long as they're playing in transition, the loss of Löwen will be less impactful.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup. So both teams are undefeated with 1-0-2 records. So not super impressive, but at least.
Also, can we just really quickly, can we get some freaking consistency here? Because like ESPN, I think, lists it as win, draw, loss. And then MLS.com lists it as win, loss, draw. I can please, dear God Almighty, someone somewhere making the executive decision that all soccer scores in Europe, in South America, in China, in Bahrain, in wherever. Can we just decide, is it win, loss, draw, or win, draw, loss? I need some freaking consistency. I can't keep every time I see somebody's record, I see one, I'll see 1, 2, 0. Which stat did that come off from? What actually is their record? I have no freaking clue.
How do you naturally see that?
I don't know. My brain naturally works as win, draw, loss.
Okay.
And I think that's because I've played too many soccer video games. But nonetheless, that's how my brain works at this point. It goes win, draw, loss. That's how my brain works.
Yeah, MLS does it win, loss, draw. So we'll just say each team has 1 win, 0 losses, and 2 draws.
Thank you.
Or 1 win, 2 draws, and 0 losses.
There we go.
Also, with consistency, speaking of St. Louis City SC LA Galaxy, the Galaxy, did I say LAFC earlier? I didn't mean
I think you might have, yeah.
Oops, I apologize.
It's the Galaxy. You're fine.
Yeah, rewind the tape. Sorry. It's the Galaxy. Funny enough, everything was even last year with City and Galaxy. 0, 0, and 2, or 0, 2, and 0, meaning that both meetings were draws.
They were boring games.
Home, it was 1-1.
It was not
the first match at City Park, and then away it was 2-2 at Dignity Health Sports Park. So, the teams are fairly evenly matched as far as stats go.
I believe,
and this year.
I believe the LA Galaxy game in LA last year was when AZ had the steal and the dribble of like 60 yards before he passed it off for the assist. I think that was like my one big takeaway from the LA Galaxy game last year. But like I said, I mean, they press high up, or not. They don't press high up necessarily, but they are statistically the best transition team in the MLS to start the season right now. I think it's going to be a fast-paced game. I just wonder, what does the City offense look like without Löwen, and what exactly is the lineup? I mean, it's hard for me to predict City losses right now, because as long as you have the back four they have with Totland, Marcanic, Parker, and Nielsen, and you have Berkey between the pipes, it's not likely that a team scores more than 1 goal against City. Again, Austin FC, the 2 center backs, it's a little bit of an outlier, because I'm really confident in the defense here. I'm more worried about whether or not City's going to be able to score a goal in this game and to try to take all 3 points.
Yeah, that's the concern for me as well. I'm hoping for 2-1. I'm probably predicting something like a 1-1, which is not what I want to do. But I think if all goes well, a little momentum happens, we score first, for goodness sake. I think we have a shot at a 2-1 victory here. I don't think the Galaxy has the weapons to do what they need to do if our defense is making sure that every base is covered and we're not letting center backs just come in willy-nilly on that second goal. That second Austin goal was really.
I gotta find my note on that one, because I'm pretty sure I wrote down who I was putting the blame on for that goal.
It was rough to take. So Marcanic
was.
Marcanic was on the left. He was somewhat center goal, actually kind of in front of Berkey, if I remember. And it was a really simple play where they thought a shot was coming from the 18. They tucked it over to the left of the box. He crossed it over. And this cat was as open as you can be. I mean, if you can't make it hard for a center back to get a goal, not even on a set piece, then they're just going to, I mean, all he had to do was just throw his body in the direction of the goal and find the ball at some point. It was as easy as that. Pompeu was behind him, but that's not Pompeu's job. Really to be over there. I think he was about 6 yards behind him and kind of off to the other side of the box. But dude,
I hate this, but I'm going through my notes and I found it because the second goal was right after the City's first goal. Durkin got beat on that one again. If you look at, I'm pretty sure I think Durkin lost his man mark on both the goals. Now that I'm looking over my notes, not great for him, but you're not center back, center midi. His man marking is not Durkin's specialty. If you go back and watch that game, there's actually like 6 times where he, like 20 yards away, reads the line of the pass and just steps right in front of it and takes it the other way. So as if my big takeaway from that game is going to be Durkin, a much more heady kind of defender than he is physically with the man marking.
Dang. So it sounds like a stopper position rather than like a.
Yeah, a little bit. He was jumping interceptions like a madman in that Austin game. I mean, ones where one player's here, the other player's lining up like over here a little bit, and then he would snap right in front of it, just completely reading the players' minds. But then again, he gets beat twice on man marking on goals. So a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Well, I wonder if they worked that into the strategy somehow. I mean, that's
probably
similar, not to make it. Let's make it about me again. Back in high school, I was that guy. I was the free safety that was like reading everything, and I could get to a ball faster than you thought. But I wasn't great at man marking necessarily, and I certainly wasn't big enough to body some of these cats.
Moon's about to be a big Chris Durkin fan.
To jostle before it. Well, I'm just saying, like, so what was like the natural position for me was like the stopper. I was kind of like this free floating, and I had a devastatingly good, solid sweeper behind me. And together, normally where they would have played a four across the back, it actually made a lot more sense to play 3 across the back and let me kind of float out there and be a disruptor, because I could get back and cover and that kind of stuff. But I could be a force where I could be a force. And I was not a sweeper.
People have referred to that to the Durkin and Blum role as a classic quote unquote destroyer role. Is kind of one of the colloquial names that people use now for that. Just clean up everything in the back kind of role. And I think Durkin is fantastic at it. But again, maybe maybe teams have figured out you can isolate him where City puts him in set pieces and get after him a little bit with a bigger center back than him, because he's a great defender, but he's not the biggest guy when you put up a 6-foot center back next to him. So that's my thing, is that's why I don't want to focus too much on the Austin goals. Again, I'm not saying just throw them in the trash. They're nothing. Set piece goals are huge in this game, but it is interesting to me that it's Durkin getting beat, man marking, and not one of your actual defenders.
Yeah, first line of defense though. Maybe that's his role, is to be the first person you have to beat. Because there's some other good defenders back there. Well, hopefully they clean it up and we get a 2-1 win or a 2-0 win or a 7-0 win. Really against LAFC. Now it is on the West Coast, so don't forget
9:30.
The Apple the MLS Pass. It is free this week, so you get to watch for free even if you didn't pay for the pass. Watch it if you can. I know it's a late start, 9:30, no big deal. What else do we got in the news? We got Leagues Cup schedule, and the fixtures was announced, right?
Yes, sir. They announced the groups and the fixtures for your Leagues Cup. I know a lot of City fans out there aren't going to be happy that we're talking about it, but hey, it's City, it's happening, so we're going to be talking about it. They're in the West Group 3. St. Louis City SC is in a group with FC Dallas and FC Juarez. And frankly, when you look at those teams years over the past 3 years, it's not looking like it's going to be a bad run for City. In fact, it looks like they really could actually go pretty far in the Leagues Cup this year. I expect them against Juarez and Dallas. I would expect them to win their group. If they're able to win their group, they don't have a terrible draw, depending on obviously which teams wins their group. But if you just take the favorites everywhere, I actually do think City has a good quarterfinals draw in this League Cup's bracket right now. So
Awesome.
I mean that's a lot more games than last year. Then again, that's a little hollow considering everything the Leagues Cup has around it this year.
Yeah, I think so too. It's going to be an interesting way to maybe see some talent that we don't see all the time, and it's going to be interesting to see how they employ different strategies. Again, I've been really impressed with how a lot of these MLS teams, including ours, have been working strategy into the games and changing it game to game. So it's going to be interesting to see those kind of things. I'm still undecided on whether I'm watching these or not. Obviously, we have a job to do here. But with the boycotts and everything because of the Open Cup drama, I don't know. I'm really torn. I want to support our supporter groups that are down on the Leagues Cup stuff, but at the same time, I got a job to do. So maybe I'll just see the highlights and I won't watch the games.
There you go. So we'll move on from the Leagues Cup. I have one last thing, and that was earlier this week, St. Louis City center back Tim Parker joined the opening drive. And our own Dan McLaughlin asked him about, his thoughts on this Miami show, and if he's enjoying watching Miami. Here was Parker's answer about his thoughts on the Miami and Messi show that's going on right now in the MLS.
Probably some guys I would probably say do. I'm on the opposite end of that spectrum.
Oh, really?
I'm kind of over the Miami hype train at this point. I think that they get a rude awakening at some point.
You heard it right there from Tim Parker. He's a little sick of the Miami hype train. He wants to see them get a rude awakening at some point. I love that attitude from the center back Tim Parker, and I cannot wait for June 1st. It's going to be one hell of a game.
Yeah, I agree. I don't agree with his assessment, but I love I agree with you, and I love the fact that that's how he feels, because that's how he's supposed to feel. He's supposed to see them as an enemy. He wants to take them down. He doesn't want to give them any more air than they already have. Take the wind out of their sails. Don't give them more. That's exactly what he should be saying. It's exactly what he should be thinking, and hopefully he goes in there and tears them to pieces.
There's no way Suarez keeps this up for a full season. It can't. It can't at his age. And I know we just went through the Brazilian season. We talked about that a few weeks ago about how hellacious the Brazilian season is, and he made it through that, and he won the Golden Boot. It would just shock me if Suarez is able to keep up this pace throughout the entire MLS season.
Yeah, I don't like the guy. I don't like people that bite people. Like I haven't forgiven him for that. Like, I'll fully admit that. I don't think that's okay. But I disagree with you, man. I think if somebody can pick it, if somebody can keep it up, Suarez can, and I think he can do it in this league. And I hate to say that because we have to take that on a few times.
Geez, it's gonna be rough.
But I think he's unfortunately going to keep it up, and it's going to be pretty impressive and kind of cool to watch. I think the defense of the MLS plays a big part of it, but the dude is just an absolute monster of creativity and skill, and like little moves, even in his old age and whatever. Like he'll pull off things that you just don't expect are possible until it happens. You go, wait, I gotta see that on a replay. And him working with Messi. The hype train is real. It's there for a reason, and I love that Parker hates it. But I mean, I don't know, man. I tune in to watch those highlights, don't you?
I do every time, but I like that Parker came out and said it because I'm with him a little bit. I can understand why he'd be sick of the hype train, and in fact, I think every MLS player should be pretty sick of the hype train because that's the attitude you should have, and also. I can't imagine it feels great when you're playing in a league and then another guy comes into the league and the league just lays out the red carpet for that one player. That's got to be annoying.
Good. I hope it makes them hate those guys.
There you go.
Know what I mean? Like that's what you want. You don't want to go in there being intimidated and thinking, "Oh, this is the greatest of all time." Or
sports are better with villains. They're always better with villains.
Yeah, you want to go in there and say like, I'm gonna impress everybody and show the world how good I am at defending this guy, and how good I am at making him not an issue, not a superstar in this match. These are my minutes. Go in there and take your minutes there, Parker. Take this opportunity to play against the greatest of all time, and show us what you got, man.
There it is.
It's the world game. It's the beautiful game. It's our game. And I'm so happy. Thank you, Rocchio.
Oh, one other thing, Moon, before we get out of here. One other thing. Sunday night, 6 p.m. is the first City game at CITYPARK. It looks like the weather is going to be a little bit cooler. The last time I checked, from what it had been over the last few weekends. It's looking like on Sunday, weather's not going to be as good as it has been this entire week, but nonetheless, first City 2 game at City Park of the year this Sunday. Get down there. It's going to be a great thing. We talked a few weeks ago with Matt Seebeck about everything they're doing with the City 2 games. I love everything they're doing for it, and I can't wait to get down there for some of those games.
What time's everything get started?
I believe it's 6 p.m. on Sunday.
Awesome. Awesome. Very cool. Rocchio, thank you for your professionalism, your enthusiasm, and all of your information. We will watch the game tomorrow. MLS Season Pass. It's free. Don't forget that. 9:30 p.m. start because they are against the LA Galaxy out in the West Coast. For a nice St. Louis City win, I predict 2-1. Rocchio thinks it's 7-0. Either way, we're hoping for a W and a lot of
Go!